Hi, and thank you for joining me today for our third webinar of the 2019-2020 school year. My name is Natalie Roberts, and I'm the online training lead for C-STEM teacher support. My role is to help you and support you throughout the time that you are a member of C-STEM. I encourage you to reach out to me at any time with questions or feedback. If you are new to our webinars, each month we will focus on an aspect of the ICTI curriculum, one of the learning cycles, and a helpful tool or resource. For today's webinar, I'd like to take our time together to discuss the curriculum topic, the activity theory, Learning Cycle 2, Planning and Identifying Resources, and the C-STEM mobile app resource. Let's look at each of these in some additional detail. As you progress through your ICTI training modules, you'll be introduced to some background and theory to provide you with a foundation in understanding how the C-STEM pedagogy supports a holistic and hands-on learning approach. One of these theories is called the activity theory. The activity theory is a conceptual framework originating in Russian psychology. The foundation of the framework is the activity, which is a purposeful and developing interaction between subjects and objects. To understand this framework a little better, we'll discuss the following concepts: activity, action, and operation, the zone of proximal development, how the activity theory fits into the overall C-STEM pedagogy, and refining your own C-STEM pedagogy to incorporate the activity theory. It was Lev Vygotsky in 1978 who stated that one of the most convincing cognitive approaches to learning can be manifested through what is known as the activity theory. According to the activity theory, the basic unit of analysis is an activity that can be described in terms of a subject, which could be an individual or a group, and an object, which is the objective or purpose. Tools, both physical and psychological, mediate between subject and object. Kari Kuti in 1995 further described activities in terms of a three-level hierarchy: activity, which corresponds to a motive; action, which corresponds to a goal; and operation, which corresponds to a condition, such as an automatic or unconscious act. Essentially, activities are composed of actions or tasks, and actions are made up of operations. Let's look at some examples. In this graphic, you'll see that there are three different examples that illustrate the relationship between activities, actions, and operation. In the first example, the activity or goal is to build a house. The actions of fixing the roof and transporting materials support the activity or overall goal of building the house. The operations further support the actions by hammering the shingles on the roof and changing gears while driving the truck to transport the materials. As you can see, each level becomes more granular and detailed. You and your students will use this hierarchy on a regular basis when implementing your C-STEM projects. Vygotsky's work introduced the notion of the zone of proximal development and identified playing as the leading activity of young children. He understood playing to be the main source of a preschooler's development in terms of emotional, volitional, and cognitive development. In contemporary educational research and practice, the zone of proximal development is often interpreted as the distance between what a learner can do without help and what they can do with support from a knowledgeable adult. Some educators believe that the role of education is to give children experiences that are within their zones of proximal development, which encourages and advances their individual learning. The C-STEM pedagogy framework focuses on the application of ideas and methods that are rooted in the activity theory. One of the strengths of the activity theory is that it bridges the gap between an individual subject and their social reality by studying through activity with the C-STEM pedagogy as the catalyst. Since 2002, C-STEM has been following the activity theory in its implementation, teaching students via creative problem-solving activities that allow non-traditional methods of thinking and content mastery. C-STEM activities all have a goal to provide students with an outlet to learn and explore communication, science, technology, engineering, and math by using a fun and exciting methodology that is applicable in the real world. The students take action in order to accomplish their goal as a team, and each participant must take ownership of particular jobs or tasks. Let's look at our activity hierarchy again. In the second example, the activity is to complete a software project. This example can easily be used to illustrate activity theory through the lens of a real-life C-STEM activity at any student level. The actions described here are programming and meeting with a team. The corresponding operations are using system commands to generate code and selecting the appropriate programming language through discussion with team members. Notice that this activity not only incorporates technical tasks, but also has included communication tasks. You may discover that this review of the activity theory simply reinforces the pedagogy that you already utilize in your classroom. Well, as educators, we are encouraged to reflect and refine. By participating in the C-STEM performative evaluation, you are already taking steps to refine your pedagogy. To continue refining, be sure to implement all the steps that are outlined in the sequential learning cycles section of your ICTI training module. This brings us to the next part of our webinar, discussing the next learning cycle. To help you with planning, the C-STEM program is broken down into 7 learning cycles. This section will help you and your students stay on track with successfully completing your projects for the performative evaluation. With the C-STEM pedagogy, there are 7 recommended cycles you should follow. Each cycle is discussed in detail in Session 6 of your ICTI online training module. These recommended cycles can be flexibly used for either the 30 to 36 week or 9-week implementation option. And just as a reminder, each month we'll progress through these cycles as well to help you plan. Now I'd like to spend some time discussing Learning Cycle 2, planning and identifying resources. For the second learning cycle, your objective is to plan and identify the resources that you have to complete your project. During this learning cycle, you will ask and answer the following questions. Number 1, what is the purpose of your project? 2, whom do you need to involve? 3, what work has to be done? 4, what constraints must be satisfied? 5, when does each activity start and end with each phase of the C-STEM project? Who will perform the project work? What other resources do you need? And of course, what can go wrong? Let's take a look at each of these questions in more detail. Question 1, what is the purpose of your project? Once your students have an accurate appreciation of their C-STEM project's purpose, it will lead to better plans, a greater sense of collaboration, and improved academic performance. It's important that your students get a clear and complete picture of the significance of their C-STEM project at the outset. Your students will be more motivated and energized when they understand the ultimate goal. Question number 2, whom do you need to involve? As you determine who may play a role in your C-STEM project success, categorize them to help you determine when to best insert them into your C-STEM project. These categories include drivers, supporters, and observers. Drivers are people looking for your project's results. Typically, drivers become involved at the beginning of the project and sometimes stay involved throughout the project. Drivers may include principals, superintendents, or school board members. Supporters are people who can help your project succeed. Supporters may be involved at different stages of the project depending on need. These are your community partners, sponsors, and industry professionals. And observers are people that are just interested in your project. Most of the time, observers become involved toward the end of the project. These may be people that you invite or that attend the challenge. They may include other students, teachers, or parents. Next, you'll want to identify all the activities required to produce your C-STEM project deliverables. You'll do this so that you can assign responsibilities to your students, develop schedules, estimate resource needs, give specific tasks to student team members, and monitor your students' performance with their C-STEM project. For each activity associated with the phases of the C-STEM project, there are a number of factors to consider, including, but not limited to, processes, inputs, expected results, and duration of tasks. Once you've identified the work, then you'll want to identify all the information, processes, and guidelines that may restrict your project activities and performance. When you know your constraints, you can plan to minimize their effects on your C-STEM project. And remember to utilize C-STEM teacher and student support services as a resource to overcome constraints. Question number 5, when does each activity start and end with each phase of the C-STEM project? To answer this question, you'll want to develop a detailed schedule with clearly defined activities and frequent milestones. Having this information on hand allows you, the teacher, to serve as a facilitator of student learning. It allows you to continue to build excitement, maintain student engagement, and ensure that students are working independently as well as collaboratively to accomplish their project goals. This process further supports the ongoing monitoring and control of the work in progress. The C-STEM project requires collaboration and supports placing students into roles that best meet their strengths. The program also encourages students to take on leadership roles. Leadership roles, such as C-STEM ambassadors and grand ambassadors or team leaders, are an integral part of the performative evaluation. You can find more information about the role of C-STEM ambassadors and grand ambassadors in your curriculum guide. Question number 7 is, what other resources do you need? Well, of course, as part of the process, you'll want to identify all equipment, facilities, services, supplies, and funds that you need to perform your project work. And of course, specify how much of each resource you need and when. The key here is that you'll want to do this early in the process, which is why it's included in Learning Cycle 2. And finally, identify the parts of your project that may not go according to plan. Decide which risks pose the greatest dangers to your project's success and develop plans to minimize their negative effects. Also, remember to communicate your dangers with the C-STEM teacher and support services so that we can help you overcome your identified risks. Throughout this webinar, you've been learning a bit more about how you will implement the C-STEM program in your classroom. Remember, our webinars are designed to complement and not replace the content that is included in your ICTI training modules. Use the webinars as a tool to supplement what you are already learning in your training. To conclude today, I'd like to remind you that C-STEM offers a number of tools and resources for you to use throughout the time you're preparing for the challenge. One of these resources is the C-STEM mobile app. The C-STEM mobile app is a free tool for students and teachers. The app is available for iPhone and Android. And to access and download the app, go to the App Store or Google Play and search for C-STEM. The C-STEM app provides you and your students with access to the C-STEM curriculum, information about camps, scholarships, and internships, and students can also access the Challenge Quiz Bowl questions to practice before the challenge event. Implement the mobile app into your lessons on a regular basis so that your students become used to using the app and so they're aware of all the features that the app offers. I hope you've enjoyed this month's webinar. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm here to help you throughout the time you are with C-STEM. Don't hesitate to contact me at development@cstem.org with questions or comments. Thank you for joining today, and we're so excited to have you as part of the C-STEM family. Mark your calendar for next month's webinar taking place on Thursday, November 21st at 3:30 p.m. Central Time. Until then, remember to reach out if you have any questions or need assistance.